Hey everybody, this is AI with Dr. Craig Hansen. I'm delighted to have Gabriel with us this morning. Gabriel is the author of the AI-powered school and also runs a really innovative online course, ChatGPT Plus, and advanced AI applications for education. Great to have you with us, Gabriel.
Thank you, Dr. Hansen. Very, very happy to be here.
Hey, why don't you share a bit of your background and how you came to be interested in technology and AI and education?
I've been an educator for longer than I care to remember, for 35 years at least. Classroom teacher, principal, and I've always been fascinated by what technology can do to learning. So I've always been very much into trying to understand and discern how technology can truly revolutionize learning. So, both in terms of my classroom teaching as well as what I've done in the various schools that I've led, as well as my work in terms of professional development and writing and exploring what's next for learning. I've always been very interested in advocating for the positive use of technology in learning. When I was made aware of ChatGPT and AI, I immediately saw that this was the ultimate catalyst for the shared vision of the future of learning that we all know about, but in terms of personalization and allowing people to break through in terms of better and more engaging learning materials. So I dove deep into how we could use AI, how we could put AI to positive uses in the classroom. And then here we are, still learning and still evolving.
Fantastic. And so with your book and the courses that you run and the work that you have right now, what do you see AI doing for teachers now that was not able to be done before, and practically how are you using it?
Yeah, there are certainly some risks that are inherent to AI. We can talk about those later. But there is a very clear path ahead in terms of what AI can do to generate better classroom material. So even if we don't change anything, which we should, but suppose we don't change anything in terms of the underlying model for K-12 education, from developing interdisciplinary projects to the famous adaptations for learning difficulties, to developing case studies, simulating data, coming up with personalized reading lists, interacting with fictional characters through ChatGPT and being in role playing certain scenarios. So what is a clear path ahead is not only alleviating teachers from some of the more mundane and bureaucratic tasks that they engage in, but also in terms of generating learning interactions that are a lot more interesting. I'll give you a very concrete examples. We've long advocated for interdisciplinary projects connected with real life as a very valid means of learning because it's more engaging for students. Now, if you say, you go your 8th grade team and they need to come up with a project that covers certain curricular areas, that has to be interesting, that has to be engaging, that has to be connected with real life. That's always been very hard to do, very difficult to do. Now, of course, these generative AI tools will not get it right the first time, but you can start by saying, these are the topics. They're 8th grade students. I want them to engage in, research, creative development of a project, product design, etc. Come up with a project. And I would say after not more than 45 minutes to an hour, you have a complete product that you wouldn't have had before, which would have been extremely hard to develop even for the best of teams.
Yes. Yes, and we struggle as humans to pull together this type of information and plan it out, particularly integrate maths and science and English and looking for the crossover of learning, so they're not repeating the knowledge, but actually seeing how it connects together, which is real life. Can you think of some platforms and tools that you would encourage teachers to explore that would help them to do that?
There are two schools of thought with that. There are many platforms like Magic School, etc., that can kind of bridge the gap between the teachers and the AI interface. I am very much of an advocate for doing it yourself. I would very much advocate, buying the paid version of ChatGPT and doing things on your own, doing custom GPTs. But again, it's more of a hacking mentality and having more control of what you want to do. There are certain tools like Venturous AI, for example, which is great for project evaluation, 11 Labs for sound dubbing, Of course, Sora, when it comes out from OpenAI about video creation. There are beautiful AI is great for presentations, but I am, I'm very much I always recommend when I do my workshops, I say to people, if you can, it's better that you get as close to the interface as possible and that you take control over what you want to do. Of course, many of these platforms will allow you to say, this is, do the plan here, come up with objectives, come up with lesson plans. I think the more sustainable choice is to empower teachers to use the interface directly.
When I'm doing my teacher only days and staff meetings and courses, I just try to keep it simple. So prompts, pedagogy, and platforms, and knowing the difference between them and how do we use them, how do we drive them, and particularly like you said, building your own GPTs. I think that's really the crux of it, customization. A lot of teachers are far away from that, just in a general sense, even if it wasn't AI. They're quite far away from customizing technology for their own needs. They prefer to have that platform that's already set up for them to use. When you're doing your trainings, do you have some certain principles like that, like prompts, platforms, pedagogy that you use to help focus the attention of the teachers?
Yeah, what I do, I've always tried to, because I know that there's so much going on about AI that it can be confusing, it can be daunting for teachers. So what I do is I try to narrow down certain applications to reading and writing, general
Right.
purpose applications. And then I try to provide them with specific examples for subject matter. So I give them a kind of, breakdown of what you can do for foreign languages, math and science, uh, social sciences, etc. I think teachers need that right now because there's still a big gap between the potential of the tool and how teachers are thinking of how to use it. So I mostly focus on that, and then once they see, I'll give you an example. So for social sciences, it is a great tool to interact with historical fictional characters. So you say, okay, I want to interview Alexander the Great, and you can have your middle school students engaging in a conversation with Alexander the Great, and that's the kind of thing that at this stage, because it is so far out of the realm of what you're usually doing in a classroom, teachers are not yet thinking. You're not yet having the vision of how they can utilize the tool. And again, when it's about kind of repossessing knowledge in a way that makes it interactive, the system is great. Like if you say, I'm going to have a conversation with Alexander the Great, and I want this to be understandable by 13-year-olds, middle school students, and I want you to focus on a certain part of his life, et cetera, et cetera. It'll do it pretty good. It's pretty good to that. It's not for a dissertation, but for the scope and purpose of a classroom interaction, it's great stuff. And again, I think our role, people like you and I is to bridge the gap between what the system can do for teachers and what teachers are yet not visualizing.
Right. Recently, I think it was Sal Khan, founder of Khan Academy, was talking about their AI chatbot that they've got inside Khan Academy now, and he was talking about the Great Gatsby, and the student was able to interact with the character and learn so much more, and had a question around why the character was always looking across the water at the light on the wharf, and the AI was able to say, "Hey, well, that's the light where his love interest is, and he keeps looking over there to remember her," if I remember it correctly. And I thought that's a brilliant opportunity for students to interact with a fictional character, let alone a historical important character, because of that knowledge and understanding is already there for the
Absolutely.
it built inside the AI, because it's out there on the internet somewhere, so it's already consumed it.
Yeah, and again, I think it's important to discern what the strengths and weaknesses of the system are, and play to the strengths of the system. So that kind of thing is really in the bullseye of what the system is really good at.
So when you think
Because
about
people
that,
are
you said,
saying like, sorry, yeah,
go ahead, please.
no, people are saying like, oh, I want to do research, and I always say maybe it's not the best tool to engage in research. Maybe there are some better tools for research. This is great for personalizing and customizing in a format that makes it engaging, whatever information is already in the system, and whatever has to do with wordsmithing and processing texts. So again, that's where some of these conflicts arise. Yeah.
You mentioned the strengths and the weaknesses. Can we just have a few moments on what are some of the weaknesses or challenges or safety concerns and what teachers can do to mitigate that risk?
In general, users are outsourcing a lot of the thinking on the system, and it's not really a very smart system. It is a great, it's like the brain. It's a great slave and a terrible master. So if you know what you want and you target directly what the system can give you, it can be great, but you can't rely on the system pretending to have higher order thinking. I'll give you an example. I had a meeting last night about analyzing an extensive survey on Excel using the data analysis tool on ChatGPT. And this friend of mine who wanted to do that, he said, well, ask it to provide you insights on the survey. And I said, listen, that's the kind of thing that the system is not good at. If I say, this is the data, this is what the data is for, these are the 3 or 4 points that I'm interested in. Take the first point, for example, a certain metric that I wanted to analyze, and find the data in the survey that this certain metric that reflects the aspect that we wanted to measure. Now take that and now give me the insight. So I had to do 2 or 3 intermediate. So the system is weak when it has to replace humans for higher order thinking skills. That's clearly the case. Now, when you lower 1 or 2 rungs in terms of the level, it's more brute force than thinking, and it's a lot more about exploring and selecting and curating data. That is great once the system knows what it has to do. So that's definitely a weakness. We tend to forget that it is an artificial algorithmic system, so many people are so it's very vulnerable to weak prompts, and it can turn very bad results if the prompts are not well formulated, or if the user is not discerning of what the quality of the answer is. So these famous, there are less and less hallucinations, especially with the more advanced models, but they still can go through some kind of logical loophole and come out with some outrageous result if you're not attentive. So again, it's an immensely powerful tool, but one has to be wary of keeping some kind of again, my answer would be let's not ask it to do what it cannot do yet.
Yeah. How are you finding your time to investigate all these tools and do your job and do training?
Yeah, it's fun. So I always find when I always find some space to invest. Obviously, you can't keep up with everything. Like, for example, today as we speak, there's a new announcement from OpenAI, and I haven't yet seen what that announcement is. So I'm going to go and check as soon as my day is done to see what came out today. This big announcement that they were about to unveil at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is long past. But in general, you can kind of zero in. Again, this is like with any tool. Once you develop a certain sixth sense or intuition about what is relevant and what is not, you can more or less find your way through.
Right. So
there's a lot of hype.
What's the best way for people to get hold of you? And I'm going to be registering for your course, which is happening very soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how can
yeah, look me up on LinkedIn. I am publishing an article every week on LinkedIn. And that's the best way to, today it is one of the easiest platforms to connect. So this week's article, which I'm publishing tomorrow, is about academic integrity, the elephant in the room.
Nice. Very good. Gabriel, thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
I'll make
thank
sure
you.
your LinkedIn profile link is with the show notes, wherever this may be, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.